My mom once texted me 5 words that ended our family forever. Pay or you're out forever. It started with my sister's demand. Send me $2,800 for prom. I laughed at first, then I saw my parents' messages flood in, one after another, all saying the same thing. Do it, or don't come home. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and quietly shut down everything that tied us together. Bank accounts, transfers, the safety net they'd built on my back. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing calls, texts, desperate messages. But it was too late. Before I tell you what they did next and how I finally made them stop, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to cut off your own family? I grew up believing responsibility was love. That's how my parents raised me: work hard, stay grateful, never complain. And for years, I did exactly that. I worked through college, juggled part-time jobs, and built a career from scratch while they bragged about how independent I was. What I didn't see back then was that independence made me useful. I wasn't the favorite child. I was the fallback plan. When my sister Jenna was born, I was 17. Everyone called her our second chance. My mother said it constantly like it was scripture. We'll get it right, this time she'd laugh, brushing Jenna's blonde curls while I cleaned the kitchen. I didn't resent her, not then. I just learned early that love in our house came with conditions. We lived in a 2-story home on the edge of Lincoln. The walls were covered with photos of Jenna, her dance recitals, her trips, her birthday parties with 3-tier cakes and matching dresses. There were almost no pictures of me. Maybe one from graduation hidden behind a plant in the hallway. My mother once said, "You were always camera shy, but that wasn't true. I just wasn't invited into the frame." By the time I hit 35, I was the one holding everything together. A marketing director at a mid-size firm, long hours, clean apartment, stable income. I wasn't rich, but I was steady. My parents leaned on that steadiness like it was theirs. 4 years ago, after one of Dad's rough months, I set up a joint account to help them manage bills, utilities, groceries, gas. It made me feel like a good daughter, the kind of person who never forgets where she came from. For a while, it worked. Mom sent polite thank you messages. Dad would call every few weeks saying, "We're so proud of you." But every time he ended with the same line, "We're lucky to have you, kiddo." It sounded warm until I realized what it really meant. We're lucky because you pay for our mistakes. Jenna, meanwhile, lived in a different world. Designer clothes, manicured nails, new phones every 6 months. My parents called it letting her enjoy her youth. I called it denial. She never had a job, never paid a bill, never once said thank you when I covered their shortfalls. And still I kept sending money because that's what you do for family. The last time I visited home before everything fell apart, the house looked smaller, more fragile. There were new handbags on the counter, a brand new flat screen mounted on the wall, but the air felt heavy. My mother poured coffee and said, "You work too hard, Lauren. You need to relax more." I wanted to tell her I worked hard because someone had to. If you'd walked into that kitchen, you wouldn't have guessed how close everything was to breaking. The hum of the refrigerator, the smell of burnt toast, the sound of my father's cough echoing from the living room, it all felt ordinary. But underneath that quiet, something was rotting, and it would take one text, just one, to expose everything. It happened on a Thursday morning, halfway through a meeting I'd been leading. My phone buzzed once, then again, then again. I ignored it until the vibration wouldn't stop. When I finally flipped it over, the screen glowed with Jenna's name. The message read, "Send me $2,800 for prom." No greeting, no explanation, just that. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. She'd always been dramatic, but this felt different, colder. I typed back, "Earn it yourself." My thumbs hovered before I hit send, but something in me wanted her to see that word, yourself. A minute later, my screen lit up again, Mom this time. "Pay for your sister's prom or don't bother calling yourself part of this family." I stared at it, trying to breathe. Then came Dad's text, "Do the right thing, Lauren." That phrase, the right thing, hit harder than I expected. It was the same one he'd used when I paid off their car loan, when I covered their mortgage, when I wired money during emergencies that somehow happened every season. But this time, it wasn't about helping. It was a threat. I turned my phone face down, but my mind wouldn't quiet. I remembered every time I'd been told no. Growing up, how Mom said we couldn't afford my college trip, but somehow managed to spend $2,000 on Jenna's 10th birthday. I remembered her saying, "You'll understand when you have kids of your own." But now I did understand. I just didn't like the truth behind it. That afternoon, Jenna called. "You're so selfish," she snapped the second I picked up. "It's just prom. You're 18, I said evenly. "You can get a job." She laughed, a sharp, high sound that made my stomach twist. "Why should I? You've got money. You're supposed to help." "I've been helping," I said, "for years." "Then what's one more time?" she shot back. "You always act like you're better than us." Before I could answer, she hung up. The line went dead, and with it, something in me went still. The next day, while I tried to focus at work, an email from my bank appeared. Large transaction alert. My heart dropped. $5,000 had been withdrawn from the joint account I'd opened for my parents. My name was on it, but I hadn't touched it in months. For a second, I couldn't move. Then anger kicked in hot, sharp electric. I called Mom. No answer. I tried Dad, straight to voicemail. Finally, I texted, "Did one of you authorize a $5,000 withdrawal today?" No reply. That silence said everything. I stared at the office window, watching the reflection of my own face, tired, furious, finally done pretending. It wasn't about $2,800 or prom anymore. This was years of manipulation disguised as love, cashing out right in front of me. I knew I needed help, and not the kind that came with empty apologies. So that night, I texted Ellen, my friend and lawyer down the hall, "Need to talk. Urgent." Ellen didn't ask questions over text. She just sent back my office 6:30. "Bring everything." By the time I got there, the sun was down and the office floor was empty, except for the hum of the vents and the glow from her desk lamp. I dropped my bag onto the chair and handed her my phone. "They withdrew $5,000 this morning. I didn't authorize it." Ellen's eyes narrowed. From the joint account, I nodded. She opened her laptop, typing fast. "Let's log in. We'll pull every record." The moment the screen loaded, I felt my chest tighten. 4 years of deposits, withdrawals, and transfers stared back at me, rows of numbers that used to mean trust. Ellen scrolled, her eyes darting. "Lauren, these aren't recent. They've been taking money for years." My mouth went dry. How much she clicked through month by month. Credit card payments, car loans, retail stores, a travel agency. This isn't groceries and bills. This is lifestyle spending. She kept scrolling faster now. Clothing boutiques, jewelry, even a transaction labeled prom planner, $3,000. I leaned back the chair, creaking under me. Oh my God. She turned the screen so I could see the total at the bottom. "Lauren, it's over 100,000. The number didn't make sense at first. My brain refused to believe it. 100,000, my savings, my security, my future gone. Ellen's voice was calm, grounding. "You have proof. You can close the account and file for misappropriation if you need to." But I wasn't thinking about lawsuits. I was thinking about every phone call that started with, "We're struggling a little," or "We just need a bridge until next month." How I'd believed them every single time. I rubbed my temples, feeling the sting behind my eyes. I thought I was helping them survive. Ellen's tone softened. "You were helping them hide from reality." Something in me shifted. All those years of guilt and obligation burned down to a single cold flame. "Close it," I said. Ellen hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. "Close it. Freeze everything." She did. 10 minutes later, it was done. My hands trembled slightly when I signed the authorization. Not from fear, from release. For the first time in my life, I was no longer responsible for their chaos. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the quiet skyline. No phone calls, no demands, just silence. It should have felt lonely, but instead, it felt clean, like breathing after years underwater. I drafted one email, short and sharp. "The joint account is closed. I know about the $100,000. Do not contact me again." Then I hit send. I didn't expect what came next. My phone started buzzing, first one call, then another, then 10. Messages pouring in like rain. How dare you? You've destroyed this family. We needed that money to survive. I didn't reply. Not one word. Because survival doesn't come from stealing someone's peace, it comes from earning your own. A week later, I drove to their house. The same beige two-story in the Lincoln suburbs with the same rose bushes I'd planted years ago that my mother still took credit for. I parked at the curb and sat there for a minute, the folder of bank statements on the passenger seat glowing white under the dashboard light. My stomach was tight, but not from fear, more like the calm before a storm I'd already accepted. When I walked up the front steps, the porch light flickered on. Mom opened the door first, her expression sharp enough to cut glass. Dad stood behind her arms crossed, jaw tight. Jenna was slouched on the couch, inside phone in hand, pretending not to see me. I didn't ask to come in. I just did. Lauren, Mom, started voice brittle. "We need to talk about what you've done." I dropped the folder on the coffee table. Papers spilled out, sliding across the polished wood like accusations made visible. "Actually, I said we need to talk about what you've done." She blinked, caught off guard. Dad frowned. "What is this?" "Every withdrawal," I said. "Every fake emergency. Every dollar you took from the account I opened to help you survive used for handbags, cruises, Jenna's prom planner." Jenna's head shot up. "You went through my business." "Your business," I said quietly. "My money paid for your life." Mom's voice rose, shaky but defiant. "You had no right digging through our private finances. You had no right taking mine." I said, my tone flat, controlled. $100,000, Mom. You told me it was for bills, for medicine, for Dad's back surgery, but you were paying off credit cards and buying jewelry. Dad took a step forward. "You don't understand, Lauren. We were drowning. You were supposed to help us." I looked at him for a long second. "I did. I gave you a lifeboat. You poked holes in it." Mom's eyes filled, but not with shame, with anger. "You're ungrateful. We did everything for you." I almost laughed. "Everything I was 17, working 2 jobs while you threw $1,000 parties for her." I nodded at Jenna. "I begged for $50 for a school trip, remember? You said you couldn't afford it." 2 weeks later, she had a new iPad. Jenna's face flushed pink. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." I opened the final page of the statement, circled in red. Does this look like nothing? Silence. The only sound was the soft tick of the old wall clock. Dad's voice broke it. "You can't walk away from us. We're your family." That word family landed like a curse. I took a slow breath. Family doesn't threaten you when you stop paying. Family doesn't steal behind your back. Mom's hand trembled as she pointed at me. "You're abandoning us." I met her eyes. "No, you abandoned me the moment money became more important than respect." For a moment, no one moved. The air felt heavy, every second stretching thin. Then I gathered the papers, slid them back into the folder, and stood up. Dad tried one last time. "Lauren, please. We can fix this." I shook my head. "You can fix yourselves." When I turned for the door, Mom's voice cracked. "You'll regret this." I paused with my hand on the doorknob. "No," I said softly. "You will." The screen door slammed behind me. For the first time, I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cold, sharp against my face. I sat in the car until my heartbeat slowed, watching the house through the windshield. Inside, lights flickered in different rooms, shadows pacing, arguing, unraveling. It should have hurt more than it did. But what I felt instead was clarity, the kind that comes only after you've burned everything false to the ground. When I drove away, I didn't check my phone. I already knew it would be full of messages, apologies that weren't really apologies, threats wrapped in guilt. I'd heard them all before. That night, I slept better than I had in years, because for once, I didn't owe anyone anything. Months passed before I heard anything. The silence that used to terrify me had become a strange kind of peace. No more late-night calls, no more urgent texts. My apartment stayed clean, quiet my own. I started going on morning runs again, picking up my own groceries without calculating what was left for someone else. Then one Sunday, a cousin from my mother's side, Sarah, called. We hadn't talked in years. Her voice was hesitant. "Lauren, I thought you should know. Your parents lost the house." I stopped mid-stride on the running trail. What they filed for bankruptcy. The second mortgage they couldn't keep up. The bank took it last week. For a second, I didn't say anything. Wind rustled through the trees, and I watched a line of joggers pass me like the world was still moving forward, even as mine paused. Sarah continued softly. "Jenna's working part-time now. Retail. Had a clothing store in town." I let out a slow breath. Not satisfaction, just something deeper, quieter. "Thanks for letting me know." After we hung up, I sat on a park bench and watched the sunlight hit the pavement. I thought about all those years I'd spent trying to earn love through responsibility the way a paycheck could buy temporary peace. I thought saying no would destroy me, that walking away would make me heartless. But it hadn't. It had made me whole. I started therapy that month, not to fix what they broke, but to stop carrying it. My therapist asked what I missed most about my family. I told her the truth, the idea of them, not the reality. At work, people noticed I smiled more. I stopped staying late, stopped answering emails past midnight. Ellen and I started grabbing lunch together every Friday. No talk of lawsuits, just life. One afternoon, she looked at me over her coffee. "You did the right thing, you know." I nodded. "I know. I just wish it hadn't taken me so long." She smiled. "It always takes too long. That's how you know it's real." That night, I came home, lit a candle, and sat by the window. Outside, the city glowed soft and distant. I pulled out an old photo, the only one I had, where we were all together. Mom, Dad, Jenna, and me, everyone smiling. It was taken on Jenna's 10th birthday, right before the cake I'd paid for with my weekend job. I stared at that photo for a long time before sliding it into a drawer. Some stories don't need to be erased, they just need to end. These days, I measure love differently. Not by money, not by obligation, by peace, by effort, by whether someone stays when there's nothing left to take. Family isn't blood. It's who respects your boundaries, not who punishes you for having them. And if you're watching this wondering if it's okay to step away, listen to me. It is. It's not selfish. It's survival. If you've ever had to draw that line with someone you love, tell me in the comments. I'd like to know how you found your peace too. And if my story hit close to home, subscribe, because the next one might just be yours.